And here in Germany, the parliament has voted to keep military service voluntary for now. But if 80,000 recruits don't step forward, that will change in future. The increase in service personnel is needed to meet the demands of NATO membership. Lawmakers' approval of the government's plan will see mandatory medical checks for young men and better pay and conditions for those who sign up.
This is the first morning exercise of what could be the next generation of German soldiers. These 16 to 18-year-olds are joining the Discovery Days program of the country's armed forces, currently facing a massive shortage of soldiers. Carlotta is one out of over 20 the army is trying to recruit within the next 5 days.
I wanted to join the German armed forces, and this gives me a good insight into the army. That was my motivation, to see what it's like.
They learn about drone defense and weapon systems, including witnessing the use of live ammunition. To some, a highlight.
I'm very interested in tanks and the military in general. That's also my motivation for wanting to get an insight into it.
So far, the German government has decided against reintroducing conscription. Instead, starting next year, all born in 2008 will receive a questionnaire on their willingness to serve. The aim is to boost Germany's army with more volunteers.
We definitely have noticed a significant increase of interest in armed forces and security. Young people are looking for meaningful jobs. Whether joining the German army is one of the options they're considering is still in question. And this is why they're seeking information about it.
The goal? Germany wants to recruit an estimated 80,000 more active soldiers in the upcoming years to meet the requirements of NATO. A recent study suggests that a sufficient number of young people would be willing to join the army voluntarily. Carlotta hopes that this is the case, as she is critical of conscription.
If you want to join the armed forces, then you should do it. I don't think compulsory military service is a good idea because it's better to join voluntarily than to be forced. Otherwise, you lose your motivation.
She is motivated. She wants to serve for 3 to 4 years. If she likes it, she'll stay longer.
Well, unsurprisingly, not everyone is happy with the new military services. In many cities, protests have been organized from mainly young people, like here in Berlin, where my colleague Julia Saudelli is standing by. Julia, what do the protesters demand, given that the new military service will be a voluntary option?
Well, we have a lot of very young people here, 14, 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and what they are questioning is not necessarily the law that has been approved now, introducing voluntary military service, or basically joining this register of people who would be available to then join the military. But they think this might be a first step in the direction of then the introduction of conscription and mandatory conscription. And this is what they really don't like. They don't like the fact that they see older politicians deciding on the future of young people and eventually the possibility of forcing them to join the military. I've heard from some people here, especially one young man, Adrian, who said he heard from his grandfather what it means to go to war, to fight in a war, and he saw the consequences on his grandfather, and he himself does not want to be forced to go to war. Many here also understand that the security situation is difficult, and they understand that there is a conundrum here. How could Germany defend themselves? But they think it should remain a voluntary decision to join the army, and it shouldn't be mandated.
Now, are these fears really, do they have a good reason? Because even if compulsory service is introduced in the future, wouldn't it be possible to refuse military service and perform social services instead, like it was when I was young?
Yeah, so that's how it used to be. There aren't any fixed decisions yet on how it might look in the future to carry out a civil service. There are debates currently going on in Germany on wanting to prepare for the introduction or reintroduction of a civil service where a mandatory military service to come into effect. But this is something that, for example, many young people here I've spoken to would have nothing against. They would definitely then opt for a civil service service. Even if it were mandatory, they would find that okay. It's going ahead with the mandatory conscription that they are strongly against.
Political correspondent Julia Saudeli there reporting from that protest in central Berlin. Thank you, Julia.
And for more on this story, I am joined now by political correspondent Matthew Moore in the German parliament, the Bundestag. Matthew, the Bundestag wants to get the new military service up and running right away. What will this new military service look like, and what is it supposed to achieve?
First, Sarah, I can just tell you now that they've just read out the results of this vote and it has passed. So that means that the new military service model will go into effect at the start of 2026. So a great day for the Ministry of Defence here. The Defence Minister has been pushing for this for months, if not longer, and there's been a lot of wrangling. And really the plan has been to get Germany into a position where it has the largest conventional army in Europe. Now, currently, Germany has around 180,000 soldiers. The plan is to try to get that to 260,000 by 2035. Now, how do you do that? You have to, they basically want to encourage 18-year-olds to join the armed services. And so from 2026, all 18-year-old men and women in Germany will receive a questionnaire. And for men, it will be compulsory to answer that questionnaire. Questions about whether they're willing to serve, how fit they are, and so on. From 2027, all 18-year-olds, 300,000 men, 18-year-old men will be summoned for an examination, and that is compulsory too. And there they will be checked for how their physical state, their intellectual state and aptitude and so on, and that will be compulsory. And that is the hope from the Ministry of Defence there, is that through this process to get a better idea of who could potentially fight and who can serve, and also that they attract more people to join the army.
Matthew, what happens if not enough volunteers are found to serve in the Bundeswehr?
Yeah, this is the thing that has been really a bone of contention in recent months. What they've agreed on, they've called it a compromise, essentially, is that should they not be able to recruit 20,000 or so new soldiers every year, then if they're not online to meet their targets, then what will happen is that the Bundestag will have to then vote, that is the German parliament here, will vote again to look at whether there's a needs-based conscription where young men will not be given a choice really whether they can serve or not. There will also be there is also, or rather always, the opportunity for people to conscientiously object, but it will become a needs-based conscription model. Again, though, must stress that the Bundestag, the parliament here, would have to vote on that in the future.
And many members of the affected generation, young people, they are protesting today. How do Germans, more broadly speaking, view military service overall?
Yeah, it's a very polarising topic here in Germany. Look, there was polls done throughout the past year. One of them that stood out is that there's a broad consensus. 3 in 4 Germans agree that Germany needs more soldiers to be able to defend itself in the event of an attack. Now, remember, senior military officials, senior figures in this country say that Russia is preparing and could carry out an attack on a NATO country by 2029. So the threat, they say, is very real, and they want to be able to maintain peace by being able to defend itself. And so 3/4 of Germans believe that that's the case and there should be more troops. And when you look down into, okay, so what's the plan? Do we reintroduce military and civil service, which was abolished in 2011 here in this country? There's still a majority for it. Around 55% of people say that should be reintroduced. But you see, Sarah, as you mentioned, this great divide between young people and old people. A lot of young people are against that idea, and we will see over the course of today there are planned protests, students bunking off school to come and show their displeasure at what they see is a decision that has been made over their heads.
Matthew Moore, thank you.